This is it, guys. We are up to the final month of 2023 and my main goal for December is going to be to clear everything off this TBR. My only real goal for December, well, not my only real goal, but my primary goal is to clear everything that has been rolling through the TBRs of 2023. So the aim is that after this TBR video, you will never see any of these books in a TBR video again. Whether I can do it is a different matter because I do have some other things that I would like to achieve throughout the month, but my reading in the last 6 months, I want to say the last half of 2023, has been much better than it has been for like the 2 years previous. So I mean, there's hope there. In terms of readathons, I believe that I'm only participating in one, which is Clear Your Shit. I will share my current progress with that readathon here because it does run for the entirety of November and December, and I'm happy to say that I'm pretty much on track. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this point in the readathon. So we just have the second half of that, but the good thing about Clear Your Shit is that the main goal of the readathon is just to read books that you already own, and because of that the prompts are pretty accommodating. I will leave the announcement video from Most Reads down in my description box if you do want to check that readathon out. It is one of my favorites and I participate in it every year, but not normally as successfully as I have in 2023. So aside from that and clearing through everything on my core TBR, which is what I'm going to be sharing with you guys here today, I think I want to read sequels, and I think I'm potentially going to alternate between a TBR book and a sequel and just get things off my TBR. All's my aim is normally at the end of the year is to set myself up for a strong foundation to start the next year on. So I have 7 books on my TBR this month. We have 2 book club books. One is a reread, which I could really do with getting through in December, and the other 4 are my Patreon picks that I have left over, and then also the one that we'll be adding for December. So we'll start off with the book club picks. The first one is my Patreon book club pick, and that is Deadlands by Stacey Marie Brown. My Patreon book club is a fantasy romance one where we read through series. We're currently working on the Savage Land series. So this one is book 3. It's a post-apocalyptic type series following a girl who lives in the human side of Budapest. After the veil between the human lands and the Fey lands fell, a war followed this, and the result was that the world was split between the Fey and the humans. So our main character is from the human side, and she steals drugs from trains that transport them throughout the city between the human and the Fey lands. And one day when she's doing this, she is captured and put into a maximum security prison where she finds out that the world as she knows it is potentially not what is actually going on. So the first 2 books in this series were rereads for me, so I'm really excited to finally be getting into Deadlands and moving on to books in this series that I have yet to read. I said it once, I'll say it again, these books are not the best written books that I've ever read, but they are definitely addictive, and I had forgotten how many things kind of pop off at the end of book 2, and I'm really excited and also hoping to get some answers in the 3rd installment. For Wheel of Time Along, I am going to be tackling the beast that is Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan. This one is book 6 in the Wheel of Time series, which is an epic fantasy series. We all know Wheel of Time. It is the classic struggle between dark and light, and in this series we are following the Dragon Reborn, who is a pivotal figure that is reincarnated in every age to tip the world a little bit more towards the light or the dark. Now in recent ages the dark has been winning, and assumedly as we progress through this series, this will be the time, I'm assuming, that the light wins for good. I've had my issues with this series. I don't love the writing style, but I really love Robert Jordan's intricate plotting. I have already very slightly started this. I have been listening to the audio when I've been walking Brie, and I'm 32 pages in. That is 2 dog walks worth of audio, but I'm currently listening on 1.7 just because I'm just settling back into it. I will bump it back up to 2 again soon, but on single speed the prologue of this book is 3 hours and 10 minutes. It's a 74-page prologue, which is intimidating in itself, but this book without the glossary is 993 pages. It is 7 pages shy of 1,000, so this one is going to be quite the task. I don't want it to take over my December. I don't don't want to have to read massive chunks of this every single day to make it for the live show, which I don't think we currently have a date set for, but it is definitely, it's an intimidating one. It is going to be an ask. My reread of the month is going to be House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, because as we all know, book 3 in this series is going to be released at the very end of January. Now, I do want to reread the first 2 books and set myself up ready for book 3, but I'm not actually going to be able to read book 3 until the end of February. I'm going to Thailand on the 1st of Feb. I get back on, I think, the 11th, and then I have like 4 gigs and some other stuff going on in the first 3 weeks of February, so it is going to be a number of weeks until I get to book 3, which is a little bit intimidating because you know how spoilers circulate on the internet real fast. But this one is my favorite book of all time, despite me not loving the series as a whole and also not really loving the direction that it's going. But this one is an urban fantasy series from Sarah J Maas. It is following a half-fae woman called Bryce Quinlan, who is tasked by the Archangel Micah, who is the ruler of Crescent City, with investigating a series of murders. Everybody thought that the murderer had been captured 2 years prior, but as bodies start to turn up around Crescent City, it seems that they may be at large once again, and Bryce is chosen in particular because she has a personal connection to these murders, and then because it is a very dangerous task, she is assigned a personal bodyguard in the form of the fallen angel Hunt Athalar. I adore this book, and I was worried this will be the 3rd time I've read it. I was worried the 2nd time that I maybe wouldn't love it as much. Can confirm I loved it just as much upon reread, so I'm really excited to go into this one for a 3rd time. And I do have a recap, like if you guys are looking to go into book 3 without reading this series, I do have a recap for book 1, and I do intend to post a recap for book 2, like a really detailed one, before the end of January to set you guys up to go into book 3 of this series if you don't have time to reread, because they are like 800-page books. For the Patreon picks, I have 3 left over from previous months. The oldest one is from August, which is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This one is a YA fantasy that was hella popular back in the day in 2015, and this one is following a young woman who volunteers herself to be the king's next bride. The king takes a new bride. I don't know whether it's every night, but it is pretty frequently, and one of these previous brides was the main character's sister. It's not usual for people to volunteer for this position, but the main character is looking to find out what happened to her sister, because all of these brides go mysteriously missing, and potentially also gain her revenge. And this one I believe was Farina's pick. Just gonna stack these up over here instead of trying to keep them balanced on my knee. Alex's pick for October was Splintered by A.G. Howard. This is also a very classic, nostalgic for a lot of people YA series. This one is not quite a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but it is heavily inspired, following a main character who has a history of madness in her family. I believe that her mother was locked up in an asylum because she keeps rambling about a place called Wonderland. Now, Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland actually does exist in this world, but it is inspired by the members of the main character's family who have all had this madness where they start to talk of this place called Wonderland. So I'm assuming that Wonderland is actually a genuinely real place, and the main character is going to discover that throughout the course of this one. A little bit nervous about this one just because it's a 2013 YA, so it's either going to have like those feel-good nostalgia vibes, or it might be a little bit cringe. But December is going to be the month that we find out. I'm not playing. I do not want to talk about any of these books in a TBR video again. And then November's book was Lauren's pick, which is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This one is the second of TJ Klune's like wholesome standalones. I've read The House in the Cerulean Sea and I loved it. And this one is about a guy who dies, and I think he's resisting his death. Like, he doesn't want to be dead. He doesn't believe he's dead. So he's taken to this tea shop in like the in-between where he comes to terms with his death. From the synopsis, I get the impression that this guy either wasn't very well liked or he spent all of his life not really living, and throughout the course of the 7 days that he spends at this tea shop, he starts to question whether there was actually anything missing from the life that he actually, while he was living, was quite satisfied by. So now moving on to the December book, I think I might have to change this vessel when we get to 2024, because every 6 months I go through everybody who's had a book chosen throughout the last 6 months and asked them for a new recommendation. So this is going to get refilled before the beginning of 2024. And as you can see, there is no space in here. But if you're unfamiliar with how this works, if you are one of the top tier members, one of the members of the inner circle of my Patreon, you can recommend a book to be added to this jar. And every month I pull one out, it gets added to my TBR and read in a handful of months. After it has been picked. I'm hoping throughout the month of December I'm going to catch up on my past Patreon picks and we'll go back to me reading it in the month that it's pulled, but we'll see. That's the goal. Whether we achieve it is a whole different matter, but let's have a good rummage. I have had them out, mixed them up and put them back in. I'm gonna go for, we've lost one, this one. The Bone Spinner? The Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder. This one is Debbie's pick. I do not remember this one. I recognize this cover. So this one is a YA fairy tale retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and the synopsis on Goodreads says Sleeping Beauty meets Indiana Jones in this thrilling fairy tale retelling for fans of Sorcery of Thorns and All the Stars and Teeth. Vi is a bookish treasure hunter with a knack for ruins and riddles who definitely doesn't believe in true love. Shane is a tough as dirt girl warrior from the north who likes cracking skulls, pretty girls, and doing things her own way. Briar Rose is a prince under a sleeping curse who's been waiting 100 years for the kiss that will wake him. Cursed princes are nothing but ancient history to Vi until she pricks her finger on a bone spindle while exploring a long lost ruin. Now she's stuck with the spirit of Briar Rose until she and Shane can break the century-old curse on his kingdom. Dark magic, witch hunters, and bad exes all stand in her way, not to mention a mysterious witch who might end up stealing Shane's heart along with whatever else she's after. But nothing scares Vi more, maybe it's Fee, like short for Fiona, Fee, I'm not sure, more than the possibility of falling in love with Briar Rose. Set in a lush world inspired by beloved fairy tales, The Bone Spindle is a fast-paced YA fantasy full of adventure, romance, found family, and snarg. So this one is the first book in a series. It has an average rating of 3.81, which isn't too bad, and it is not on Scribd, so I will have to find myself a copy of this one. According to the edition on Goodreads, it's 404 pages, so pretty average length, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty fast-paced. So thank you very much to Debbie for recommending this one, and I hope that I enjoy it. So that's it. I feel like I really blasted through these. This is my December TBR. Pretty manageable, I feel. I feel like these three are going to be pretty fast-paced. This one's a reread. This one I'm going to chip away at slowly, hopefully without losing my mind. And this one's also really quick. So I feel like this is achievable. Let's hope that this is the last time you ever hear me talk about any of these books in a TBR video. Down in my comments, let me know how you're planning on rounding out your 2023. Do you have any projects you're trying to keep on top of or get finished up? Do you have any priority reads to get through? Let me know all of the good stuff down in my comments. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Kindle website, the Etsy for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.